Can you imagine being in Lewis Hamilton's seat with inappropriate tires, under unexpected rain in Miami, knowing that everything you do in the next minutes could define your season? Well, that was exactly what happened. And what Hamilton did changed everything. In Miami, the weather became the unexpected protagonist of a weekend that already loaded tension because it was an event with sprint race. What should be a fast, precise, and strategic day became a chaos controlled by nature. No one expected rain on the Florida peninsula, much less one so intense as to suspend the beginning of the race. The organization of the Grand Prix had to delay the beginning for half an hour due to the accumulation of water in the layout. The cars, designed for maximum performance under optimal conditions, were completely vulnerable to the combination of water and hot asphalt that did not finish draining correctly. This type of situations does not forgive mistakes or poorly raced strategies. From the first moment, everyone knew that any bad decision, any hesitation could cost the full race. The tension did not wait and hit Ferrari first. Charles Leclerc, one of the pilots who had to lead the attack of the Scuderia, did not even be part of the start. He lost control of his SF-25 during the previous return and ended against the wall. The damage was considerable, completely compromised front and rear. Ferrari, who aspired to take advantage with his two cars, was immediately with all the pressure on the shoulders of a single man, Lewis Hamilton. Despite the experience and titles of the British, the situation could not be more complex. With a car that is barely learning to know and under conditions that did not favor anyone, the challenge was maximum. What was lived in those first laps was a festival of uncertainty. The teams could barely read what was happening on the track. The radios exploded from contradictory messages and the pilots fought more to survive than to attack. The intermediate tires, chosen almost unanimously to begin the race, proved to be a silent trap. Without the right temperature and in an asphalt that dried at an irregular rhythm, the grip was minimal. The cars skated as if they were on ice. For Hamilton, that was the decisive moment. He struggled to maintain his Ferrari within the limits of the circuit, without clear references and with a reduced visibility. There was no room for errors. What was needed was not only talent, but a perfect reading of the environment. It was then that a comeback as unexpected as it began to weave. Lewis Hamilton began the sprint race from the 7th position, a place that did not promise much in an urban circuit with few real overtaking areas and in treacherous weather conditions. From the first curves, the SF-25 did not respond as it should. The traction was irregular, the inconsistent rhythm, and the British began to lose contact with the tip pilots. It was evident that intermediate tires were not working for configuration. While others tried to adapt or simply resist, Hamilton did not find any progress. It was stagnant, as if the car and the track spoke two different languages. That situation would have been enough for many to simply accept a discrete position and save the day. But Hamilton is not one more on the grill. The key came when he noticed that the asphalt began to show dry patches. A quick and risky decision began to take shape. Aware that I had nothing to lose and to continue on track meant seeing the laps without real options, he chose to enter boxes. He requested the change to smooth tires, a decision that was against the majority, even within Ferrari. It was a bet that, to go wrong, would even leave it out of the top 10. But if it went well, it could become a high-impact strategic blow. In his own words after the race, he explained that he simply got tired of continuing skating and thought, "I'm going to enter because I was not going anywhere." It was not a desperate play, it was a precise career reading, based on his instinct and experience. When returning to the track with the slicks, the panorama began to change almost immediately. While other pilots struggled to keep their cars on an increasingly narrow moisture line, Hamilton began to find a rhythm. The turns began to fall in their favor, the times went down after return, and those in front of him, who had not changed pneumatics, began to be victims of the strategic lag. Each turn that completed not only approached the leaders, but also showed the superiority of their decision. 7th passed to 5th, then to 4th, and in the final bars of the sprint it was already comfortably located in 3rd position. Not because of the absolute performance of your car, but by a strategy that only those who deeply understand how a track evolves in real time can execute. The maneuver not only placed it on the podium, but completely redefined the story of its passage through Ferrari. What could have been one more gray day in its adaptation process became an alert signal for the rest of the grill. Hamilton, with a simple call to the box at the right time, had turned a career that seemed condemned to mediocrity into a masterclass for reading conditions, tactical courage, and, above all, of self-confidence. It was not a stroke of luck. It was a clear demonstration of why it remains one of the most dangerous pilots when the race moves away from normal parameters. What Lewis Hamilton achieved in the Miami sprint cannot be explained only with statistics or positions. His third place was, above all, an act of personal claim. After a complicated start of the season, where Ferrari had not lived up to expectations and where he still seemed in the process of understanding the car, this race was the turning point. For the first time since he got on SF-25, Hamilton seemed really comfortable. Not only was he competitive, he was the protagonist. In an unpredictable route, with changing conditions and constant pressure, the 7-time world champion found his rhythm, his trust, and his voice within the team. It was the return of that fierce Hamilton who knows when to risk, when to conserve, and how to reverse a career from pure tactics. The most shocking thing about his performance was the calm with which he executed each movement. There was no despair, not even at the times when it seemed that the strategy would not work. He knew how to read the rhythm of others and chose with surgical precision when he should attack. That serenity, born of the accumulated experience for more than a decade in the elite of Formula One, was the one that made the difference. Because while others struggled with the track or with their decisions, Hamilton remained focused. Back to the podium in these circumstances was not only a relief for him, but also a sign that, despite obstacles, he still has the ability to fight at the highest level. And most importantly, continue with the hunger to prove it. This performance also had an important echo within Ferrari. After the disappointment of Australia, where strategic decisions and execution left much to be desired, the team needed an impulse, a validation that joint work could perform fruits. Hamilton gave it to him. It was not just a tactical victory, it was a moral injection. Amid critics and pressure, he offered concrete results. He gave the team a tangible sample of what he can do when he is heard, when he has a maneuver margin, and when he can influence key decisions. It was, in many ways, the moment when he stopped being the new in Ferrari to become his leader. That is why this third place is worth more than a simple trophy. It is a direct message to the grill. Lewis Hamilton has not only reached Ferrari to meet a cycle. He has arrived to compete, to win, and to leave a mark. And in Miami, in rain and uncertainty, he made it clear. What seemed like a transition stage is rapidly transforming into a new chapter of prominence. It was not a coincidence. It was the first serious warning of what is to come. And if you maintain this line, no one can afford to rule it out in the fight for the championship. Hamilton's result in Miami sprint has consequences that go beyond the podium. It is not just a matter of points, but of momentum. In a championship as tight as that of 2025, every detail counts. The morale of a team, the confidence of a pilot, and external perception can tip the balance. For Ferrari, this third place was a breath of fresh air after weeks of media pressure and internal doubts. The fact that Hamilton has taken the reins of such a complex race and has left successful reinforces the idea that the signing of the British was more than a marketing bet. It was a sporting play that already begins to perform tangible fruits. From a strategic point of view, Miami performance can mean a change in the internal dynamics of the team. Until now, Charles Leclerc had clearly been the reference point in the Scuderia, but after his accident in the sprint and the impeccable performance of his partner, that balance can begin to be modified. Hamilton showed that he does not need to know every centimeter of the car to be competitive. With a clear career reading and timely decisions, he was able to move forward with a result that seemed unlikely. That not only raises its status within Ferrari, but forces the team to rethink how to divide priorities into upcoming careers. But the implications are not limited to Maranello. At the championship level, the situation also shakes. Hamilton gets into the fight for the top positions and, more importantly, sends a warning to his direct rivals. McLaren and Red Bull, who had dominated so far, must take note. Especially because the sprint was not an isolated anomaly, but the reflection of an adaptation curve that is on the rise. Ferrari, with a car that still has details to solve, found in this race an unexpected strength. Its ability to adapt when the script changes. And if they manage to translate that flexibility into more stable conditions, the championship can change hands faster than many anticipated. What happened in Miami could be the first link in a chain of results that completely transform the narrative of the season. Because if Ferrari learns to trust Hamilton's decision-making and gives him the necessary space to lead from the track, which seemed like a transition season, can become a reconquest. The competition for the title is far from being defined, and what seemed like a fight between McLaren and Red Bull now has a new serious protagonist. Formula One feeds on this type of unexpected turns, and Hamilton, with its performance in the sprint, has just rewritten the 2025 libretto. Lewis Hamilton's performance at the Miami Grand Prix sprint was not just an answer to those who doubted their adaptation to Ferrari, it was an overwhelming statement that its history in Formula One is far from finishing. Amid extreme conditions, when most sought to simply survive, He was able to find a chance, make a critical decision and turn it into a brilliant result. What he did not only changed his position in that race, he changed his position in this season's narrative. This result opens an infinity of questions that make what is coming even more interesting. Is this the definitive inflection point for Hamilton? Can Ferrari rely on him to recover the top of the championship? And what consequences will this have for Leclerc within the team? In a season as unpredictable as that of 2025, each race redefines the panorama, and Miami has been one of those hinges that changes everything. The next dates in the calendar are now presented with a different tension, with a fight that is no longer only between McLaren and Red Bull. It is clear that the championship is not determined. It is clear that Hamilton is more alive than ever. And it is clear that if Ferrari capitalizes this new dynamic, it can become a real and constant contender. The important thing is that what is seen in this sprint does not stay in a flash, but becomes the base on which to build the rest of the campaign. And if that happens, what is coming can be one of the most exciting seasons of recent years. Now it's your turn. Do you think this result marks Hamilton's definitive return to the fight for the title? Do you trust Ferrari maintaining this competitive level? Or do you think it was just an isolated career favored by climate chaos? Leave your opinion in the comments, share this analysis if you found it useful, and do not forget to subscribe to continue exploring each chapter of this exciting season together. The story of 2025 is writing a career, and what we saw in Miami was only the beginning.